We're recording now.
All right, cool.
So,
Take away, sir.
how do you say your name?
Day, like day and night,
Okay.
like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
My Korean name will be a little challenging, so just call me Day.
Oh, say it anyway. You can say it better than anyone.
It's Dae-kun.
Okay. Dae-kun.
Yeah, close. Yeah.
All right, I'll go with day, like day and night, as you suggested. So I don't know what direction you want to go with this. If we do end up posting this somewhere, I think it might be a good idea just for you to tell a little bit about yourself and how you got into this whole Paul Vanderklay Discord, how you found everything. I think that's an interesting story. So I don't know if you're interested in doing that.
I mean, I guess that could take a long time. I'll make it brief. Obviously, there's this guy that we know named Jordan Peterson. That's how I got into all this rabbit hole from Paul Vanderklay and Jonathan Pedro and all those people. So here I am. I've been listening to them for maybe like 2 years or so.
Okay.
I heard Jordan Peterson's name, but I just never paid attention to it. And I think most people probably watch through Joe Rogan, I think, podcast, or Dave Rubin.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was from Russell Brand. There's like a British comedian named Russell Brand.
Yep.
He has podcast.
Yep.
I forget the name of the podcast.
Is it Under the Skin?
Yeah, Russell Brand. He was just one day on the YouTube algorithm. Jordan Peterson, Russell Brand. And I thought, that name sounds familiar, and I know Russell Brand, so okay, I guess I'll just check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And from that on, I guess the life has changed to going down this whatever the journey that I guess I'm in, or all of us are in right now.
Mm-hmm. So, how did you grow up? Did you grow up in church? What attracted you to Jordan Peterson? Was it a religious aspect? Was it?
That was, I think, mainly because because previously on the Discord probably mentioned something about churches stuff. When I was in Korea, not really. We went to, like, my dad and I went to church as more on the holiday stuff, like special time. That's what I remember. Whereas when we got to the US, my dad and my stepmom religiously goes to church on Sunday. So therefore, I go to church. So, and then, let me see, how do I address this? Okay, I'll make it this way. So from 2000 to 2008 or 9-ish, I attend church regularly, like on Sundays and stuff. And few years in between, I didn't go. And then around 2011 to 2016-ish, I attend churches with my friends. There, I didn't go to like one church, like a home church type of deal. We went to multiple churches. You name all the denominations. I gone through, from like this conservative stuff to probably most, like outrage, like, whoa, this is church type of deal. So, that's, I guess, my religion stuff. And Jordan Peterson, because that interview with Russell Brand, he just immediately in the beginning it says about you can read, you can look at Bible and biblical story in a psychological way, which I never heard of that before. Like, you can actually do that? So I think that's what I got into him. I start watching his videos a lot. And then lo and behold, the YouTube algorithm, there's some pastor guy talking about Jordan Peterson. Like, oh, now this is gonna be really interesting. I bet this is gonna talk about, because I usually hear Jordan Peterson and the church, they don't go well. But this Paul Vanderklay guy is like, I think we should pay attention. because this guy has something to say. Like, okay, subscribe. So there it is.
That's the key for everyone out there to getting YouTube subscriptions. Just have something interesting to say.
Yeah. And Paul's videos, man, like 2-3 hours. I have no problem listening to it now because even Dr. Peterson's videos were like 2 hours or 1.5 hours or whatever. And I guess I have a knack for that. I was looking or yearning for more for that. I guess more, I don't know, knowledge or conversation. And most of like friends I have is their sound bites. Give me 5-minute video, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And you send them like our videos, like, oh no, I can't do it, man. What are you no, I'm not watching this. You can watch this video, that's mine. It's like, oh, okay. So I'm kind of alone in the, I guess, in the sphere of that kind of conversation, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
I hope I
know that feeling when you're trying to share something that you think is really important and really helpful, and that you think that you can connect with someone else on, but it's embedded in like a 2-hour video.
Yeah, it's like, no, we don't have time for that.
Right. Even if you tell them, just watch, from this time stamp to this time stamp, that's really all that I'm talking about here. They kind of just look at it and they're like, no.
Yep. I feel the struggles.
So how, you said you were born in Korea, is that right?
Yes, I was born in Korea, yes.
And then what age when you moved here?
12, 13, I guess.
Okay.
When I was like teenage, getting there. So it was quite a, I guess, the cultural shock, cultural change. I only know about, let's say, America is through the Hollywood movie and maybe through NBA basketball. And now I came to US and like, whoa, now I am in different place. This is very different. So it took me a little bit time to speak English properly. I'm still gonna say I'm still learning English. I don't think we ever be a master of this language. Though there are some friends or some people I know, they'll tell me like, man, you speak pretty good, or you know how to write well. Like, man, I'm a high school dropout. I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you asked me to spell philosophy, I would spell Phil, and then like, yeah, where's dictionary? That's it,
Well, I can understand you, so that's all that matters.
I'm great. I'm thankful for that. Yeah, definitely.
What was I going to ask you? So when you guys first moved here, was there maybe a Korean community that you guys linked up with that was here in the United States, or were you just completely dropped into an unfamiliar culture and didn't really have any kind of bridge to kind of help you cross?
Probably both.
Okay.
Okay, so I lived in 2 states, in Georgia for like 2 years, and most of my life I'm in Florida, South Florida. At that time in Georgia, it was 1998. The Korean community over there was small. There are Koreans, and well, now, yeah, in Georgia, I heard it grew a lot, because last time I visited was roughly about 5-6 years ago, and now they have just whole section of city, or like a kind of what do you call, like plaza is all Korean, and they have now like the Walmart size of a Korean markets in Georgia. So there, I guess, Koreans moved in there. But when I was there, living there, not that many. There are Korean churches, obviously mostly Korean kids, because it's Koreans. So, and then years later, my parents moved to Florida because they knew this pastor down here. And I think until this day, yes, they're a Korean community, but they're quite small, not as big as size of New York or LA or Chicago or anything like that. It's just we just kind of can't pass by IU Chinese, but now I guess people do a little. It's like, yeah, Korean, we know the Korean pop and Korean dramas and stuff like that. So which Paul Bennett watches, I heard. Like,
Yeah.
well, good luck, sir. You're going down to that rabbit hole. It's like, ooh, there's no coming back out, you know. So yeah. So I guess church aspect. I don't know about now in Georgia. When I was growing up in Georgia, like in 1998, mostly Koreans. That's it. And I came to Florida. Still, I think most Korean churches here in Florida is Korean people dominated. The church that I was grew up had Koreans, and there are many mixed race Koreans. Like there were half Korean and half Cuban, half Korean and half Italian. Lots of half black people, half black and half Korean kids. And one of my best friends, he's half Haitian and half Korean. So the church I grew up, the Korean church, it's a little, I guess, this word is now is like kind of demonized, like a diverse in some way. It was quite a bit diverse than most of other Korean churches. And I ended up hanging out with more like those happen Korean kids because they were the ones who's like, hey man, you want to go play basketball? Even though I don't play basketball, I just watch them play. They were the one, I guess, more accepted, offer me a friendship and that kind of stuff like that.
Okay.
Whereas for Korean kids, they're over there, you know. I talked to them, but there was no, I don't know, some form of a bond or some form of friendship or anything like that with them. So like my friends here in Florida it's like all of them are either half race something, they're Chinese, they're blacks, they're Jamaicans. So I'm a strange mix back to Korean people.
So I'm presuming that this church that had, that wasn't just Korean only, but had like, that was, that had some people that had different ethnic backgrounds besides just, they had Korean in their ethnic background, but, we're also, like you were saying, half Korean, half Italian, half Korean, half black, things like that.
Yep.
I'm presuming that church was not Korean speaking only, like the services, were they in English or what language were they in?
It was both. So it was divided into, let's say two. The Korean adults, older people, have Korean services and obviously in Korean, because other than speak English well. And the kids are predominantly speak English. So I guess that's the English ministry side. So the church, I mainly grew up the Korean church. So there are a few pastors, but there are two main. It's family operated church. Head pastor was a Korean, the father. And his son was the one that was charged in the English department, like a youth group department, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So they were divided too.
Okay. So yeah, I think it was funny where you were talking about they would invite you to come play basketball, and you had mentioned earlier that one of the things that you knew about America was the NBA. So I just
yeah, I just watch them play because I know I can dribble, I can shoot, or sports and me, it just doesn't go well.
So you never went out there and eventually started to play. You're just a spectator.
Yeah, pretty much. I was fine. I'm more than happy to watch. Even like my father is more athletic person, so he'll let me see. Yeah, he was into some martial arts. obviously, if you're Korean, the Korean man, every Korean man has to serve in the Korean military. So he got their whole trainings or why not. Also, he was involved with this thing called FIFA. If you know soccer,
Mm-hmm.
that's like a whole rep government. My dad was linesman. It was kind of like type of like a referee that does a certain things. So he's a sportsman. I mean, in fact, like my dad was, since he was a military man, he will he will wake me and my older sister up early in the morning. Okay, we're going exercise, and we're half asleep. We're complaining. It's like, why are we doing this? And my dad's running. He's like, doesn't it feel great? Yeah, come on, guys. I'm like, no, we want to sleep. So yeah, I'm more of the what do you call the guy who's just sit down, read books, with books about a bunch of stuff, and like, yeah, I'm not athletic at all. Just so me and my dad were like a little completely opposite. Though I do appreciate sports. I mean, yeah, it would be great. I can do like basketball or football or the soccer or why not. But I'm not that guy, unfortunately. And I'm short. I'm like 5'6". I'm short dude. So that doesn't help too.
Hey, there are some players shorter than that have made it in the NBA.
Yeah, that too, right? Those guys, yeah, they have some determination. Like, good for them, Yeah, you go. Who knows? Maybe I'll do the coaching or something. But no.
Well, are there any books, like, since you've gone down this Jordan Peterson, Paul Vanderklay, this YouTube path, are there any books that you have read as a result of all this?
Yes. Before all this shenanigan, I mostly read like fiction books.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I name it, probably some people don't know. So, because I like just maybe like a detective story, the murder mystery,
Mm-hmm.
or recently I read maybe some science fiction books, stuff like that. I thought that was interesting based on the movie. And then after the whole Jordan Peterson and Paul Vanderklay, I think Paul mentioned last about C.S. Lewis. I was putting up C.S. Lewis. I know every Christian I heard is like, you gotta read C.S. Lewis. You gotta read C.S. Lewis. I'm like, no, I'm not going that. Mere Christian, I'm not reading that. So I somehow find a way to download the audio version on the YouTube. But I still reading the book Miracle by C.S. Lewis.
That's a hard one.
And I almost, yeah, I'm like, man, I should have picked something else. So I jump onto a Screw Tape Letter. I almost finished that one.
Okay.
Which I thought was quite interesting. Let me see what else. I read because of the COVID-19, since I got nothing else to do, I just finished reading 1984 by George Orwell and Animal Farm by same author.
Okay.
I finished those two books.
I'm
like, man, that guy, man, he knew. George Orwell knew. Man, it's like, oh my God, this is what's happening right now in society. It's just,
I'm about 60% of the way through 1984 right now, because I'd never read it before, and I'm in a book club, and one of our rules has to be a book that nobody's ever read before, and we were trying to find some older books if we could, but we've kind of gotten rid of that rule. But one of the ones that we read, we decided to read, is 1984. That's the one we're in right now. And one of the people in my reading group is like a very conservative, temperamental person, temperament-wise, and maybe politically wise too. And it's very interesting because we have an interesting range. We have some moderate people in this group. We have some more we have a left-leaning Canadian in this group, because it's a Zoom book club. So it doesn't matter where you are. We're all, we're most of us are here in Texas, but we have one friend in Canada that we used to work with. And it's very fascinating because one of our friends who's more conservative minded, he looks at the book and he says, yeah, this is exactly what's going on right now. And the from that perspective, it's almost like the liberals or Big Brother and all this kind of stuff. And you know,
Right.
one thing that I noted in just reading that book is what's so genius about it is no matter where you sit on a political spectrum or how you view the world, you can look at this book and it will kind of fit your frame. It's almost like, yes, this is exactly what's going on, and this is what those other people are doing.
Yeah, yeah. Like good books too. Oh, that one I think you have to ask the senior over there. It's really smart.
I need a glass.
Yeah. Oh yes, yeah.
They do glass.
So yeah, even the 1984, it was recommended by a friend of mine, and he's even though he doesn't say which political party, I can tell he's more what you call the left leaning person. And what's strange is like I read the book and then he tell me some story about his life and so and so. There's one thing that I kind of picked it up on the I think second chapter where the main character goes to help his neighbor, and then his children were the chanting about, oh you're this and you're that and you're you know you're against the so and so, you know. So there's that parallel. Well, kids, what do they know? And at the same time, if you teach children in a certain way, that's all they know. And next thing you know, the children will rat you out if you make mistakes. That's like, that does happen in, like, say, place in like North Korea, which not many people talk about it. Believe me, North Korea is a rural place. So, and then a friend of mine told me about some story, and I'm thinking, you know, your children's behavior is almost like it's in this book, the book that you told me to read, the book that you supposedly read, and if you don't see the correlation, it's like, brother, I have no idea, man. It's like, I don't know what you just read, but yeah, I guess that's how it goes for some people.
Yeah, it's a wild book.
You haven't finished the book, right?
I haven't finished it yet. Several other people in the club have finished it already because we gave ourselves like a 2-week sprint basically to finish the second half of the book, and so next week is when we're supposed to be done with it. So I've got some reading to do this weekend. But yeah, the ones who have finished it have said, this is a depressing book. You're not going to like the ending. So
yeah, it is. After I read that, right after reading Animal Farm, I'm like, man, I need some comedy or something. After I finished those 2 books, a friend of mine sent me this like animation. I don't usually watch animation, but the animation, I think it's called Akira. Another dystopian story.
Yep.
3 strikes. I'm like, that's it, man. Doomsday. The war's about to end. Now that's it, you know. Man, it's like, what are we gonna do, you know? And thank goodness I'm kind of over it. But yeah, those are not easy things to read, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, how has the COVID-19 affected your business there? I see that you're back in you're in is it like inside of an old mall, or where are you stationed?
Yeah, it's inside the building. This place was closed for about 2 months.
Okay.
So funny story is the owner here, the place is quite known for his exaggeration. So when the city officials came to the mall, said, you guys need to close because of the whole thing. I'm gonna put it mildly because you're a Christian, so I said, no, we're not closing. Though the language wasn't that. Said, okay. So next day, the city officials came with the police. Said, okay, you need to close or we're going to arrest you. I said, okay, fine. That's where they put stuff away, and it's like, sorry guys, we're closed. Chop chop, until whenever, you know. So, and then yeah, roughly about, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, we're opened up. So, and the only thing that changed, the people here, I know everyone's fine. They said they don't have that COVID-19 thing. Even the people, like friends and family, I know everyone's fine. yeah, I mean, the only thing we do is to wear a mask. For me, I just wear this.
Mm-hmm.
This thing called it's a t-shirt. It's a cloth cover face.
Uh-huh.
I walk around no problem. Except twice, actually, I was denied into access to the bus twice because a bus driver said, no, that's not the mask.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
What did you
that
do? You
really,
just had to wait for another bus, or how'd you handle that?
luckily, I was thinking, okay, let's just say if that happened, I actually had an extra bandana. So I pulled that out. How about this? And the bus driver said, okay, that's fine.
Oh, okay, good.
And then recently I got myself like one of those mask thing as well. But yeah, that's a really strange thing. Because if you like here in it's Broward County that's I'm living in the county, and so the rule it says cover the face cover with a cloth. So I'm thinking, okay, face cover with a cloth, which is this, and most of the time bus drivers or the bus operator, no problem. But there has to be always one or two out there say no.
Mm.
Like, okay, I see what's going on. Even like what do you call there's a bus operators and there's a people that supervisors, the overseer of the bus drivers and such.
Mm-hmm.
I had this thing on bus, I don't say anything. Same time, there's always one out there will make the decision for you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So 1984 all over again. Yeah, that book, you know, that book haunts me. It's like, geez, people read this and don't get it. It's like, well, I guess we are so blinded. I think Jordan Peterson was so right on certain parts. It's like, see world. It's like we think we see it. It's like we don't. Like, what the hell is he talking about? And then now, it's like, man, I think Jordan Peterson, even though he doesn't say, it's like, man, he's some sort of a prophet now or something. It's like, I should.
One of the things that I found so fascinating, or that I found fascinating so far in the book, is the main character, you know, trying not to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it yet, but it's been out for over 50 years, so get with it.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're worried about spoilers, that's what I'm saying to myself, you know, 2 months ago when I still hadn't read it. But the interesting thing to me is the main character's job is to go back through old records, old news articles, old books, and alter things to match what the current, I guess, party leadership, government is saying. Here's what actually happened in history, even though the documents that they have say something completely different. You know, depending on what kind of orders he gets, he has to go in and change it. And what I found fascinating is, you know, it seems like in the book they're working with actual written documents that they have to go and alter, versus the world we live in today. There's so much. All the records are digital now. You know, they're all electronic, and so it seems like it's so much easier to be able to go and alter that. And you talk about the advancement, or you think about the advancement of technology, where you know, you've got deep fakes now. You know, you can, the better and better it gets, you can go back and start to alter videos and historical footage and things like that. And it's not that far fetched that if, you know, enough people are able to consolidate control of information, that something like this could very easily be done. Now, what is it that Peterson says? You know, reality won't let you get away with things for long. Like, reality has a way of snapping back. So it's almost like, until you can remove all people, there's still, in my guess, there's going to be people who are going to do something or say something. Now in the book, you know, people like that just get eliminated or erased from,
Yeah, pretty much.
They just disappear.
Yeah, definitely. They call all sorts of names. I mean, I'm not gonna say a lot here. I think we know those like the phrases are, which is such a staggering to hear. It's like, man,
Yeah.
Yep, you're right.
And they've been able in the story to keep people in such a psychological condition where they don't even question um, their own cognitive dissonance anymore, where it's just like, well, that person used to be here and exist, but they don't anymore. And, they even erased the record of that person even existing. And so they've also conditioned everybody to, not think to even ask, what happened to that person? Or, no, that person used to sit right over there. People know, or they're just conditioned to not even ask questions like that anymore, almost not even to think those thoughts, And so it's just a fascinating reality that he's woven in that book. It's just very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the news, like the if you I guess pay attention to news, whatever that's going on, they're tearing down like statue of George Washington. They're
Mm-hmm.
tearing down the statue of the Thomas Jefferson, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Columbus something. I forget the name of the person.
Christopher Columbus.
Yeah. That, and like here in Florida, I read from the news that they vandalized his statue and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about the things changing it or altering it. Another thing I read on the news was the Merriam-Webster dictionary. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to advise quotation mark the word racism.
Mm.
So like, okay, you gotta give a cricket eye and say, well, what's wrong with the racism definition back in the day? Is there something wrong? It's happening. It's happening in front of our eyes, I guess.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I learned a new word yesterday. I was listening to a conversation on YouTube, and somebody used the word capacious. They said that's a capacious definition of a particular word that they were talking about. So I had to go look it up, and I was like, oh, capacious. Well, it's rooted in the word capacity or room to breathe or a lot of room to move around. And so I feel like the word racist, at least over the last, or racism over the last 10 to 15 to maybe 20 years, I don't know. It seems like it's more recent than that. That the word racism has kind of grown in definition to mean more than maybe a lot of people think it means. And I was having this discussion couple of days ago, just talking about how it's a very, the definition itself can become very triggering if you're trying to have, I think what Paul Vanderklay, I can't remember, one of his friends called them 10% conversations, where he talks about it's a very culturally landmine type topic that you would talk about with someone who stands on the other side of that landmine field. And I've just noticed that if you're not very careful with what you mean by that word and what you mean by racism whenever you're having a conversation with someone that holds maybe a different perspective or has different experiences than you have, it could be a non-starter for that conversation if you're just using the word racism to try and describe things that you've observed in the world, or you're saying it's not racism to describe things that you're seeing happen in the world. And to me, it seems like to be able to have a fruitful and productive conversation around that, you probably need to really understand what the other person means when they're saying it. And for me, at least, also check myself if that definition doesn't match what I think it is, and check myself and not jump in and say, no, you're wrong, that's not racism, or no, you're wrong, that is racism, because that seems to be very inflammatory, or could be very inflammatory in discussions. And I think that could be a part of some of the difficulties that we're facing right now.
Now I'm on the phone. Right? Later. Yeah. Agree with a lot of things you said. Man, what was I gonna say? So, have you heard these people? Have you heard about Dr. James Lindsay?
It sounds familiar, but no, I don't think so.
Dr. Peter Boghossian?
I've heard of Peter Boghossian, yeah.
Dr. Helen Doctorows, I think.
Yep. The what was it called?
The whole paper people.
Yeah, the hoax people. Yeah.
I think that's easy to remember them. I think Paul talked to Dr. James Lindsay. I think
yes,
if you didn't listen to his conversation with him, I think definitely you should go watch it again.
Yeah.
And also there's Dr. Neil Shimby, I think.
Yep, I remember Neil Shimby from Paul covering him.
Yeah, I think those people seems to getting understanding of what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
For the Dr. Lindsay and those people, they have now this website called newdiscourse.com,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a glossary, like a dictionary place where you could go look up these words if you want to look at what anti-racism is, or systemic racism, or let's say, I'm sure you maybe heard this one, like white privilege or white supremacy, like these type of language. They explain how these so-called grievance scholar people, or Dr. Shimby called them like a contemporary critical theorist. I think those two are saying they just call it different names. And we think we understand what, let's say, so-called racism is. For these scholars, no, they have a very specific definition to it. Like, for example, the word like diversity. We hear said, yeah, diverse, no problem. I mean, in some way, I have a diverse friends of from different backgrounds and so on and so forth. That's not what it means when these scholars and these people promoting some of these ideas for diversity. Same thing with the word inclusion, and same thing with the word equity. Equity and sounds like equality. They don't mean equality. They mean the specific word equity. So like some of those words, I think probably has to pay attention. That's like the Dr. James Lindsay and Peter Boghossian say, you gotta watch out for these words. These words are very key. We think we understand these word means. Like, no, we don't. They meant completely different things going on. Because like the I don't attend churches anymore for many reasons. Particularly, I work every day. Even, that doesn't mean I don't pay attention to what's going on in church. I have a few friends who's pastors. So, and then sometimes, thank you very much, you too, they have their messages online. So I listen, try to figure out what's going on. And it's after I listened to, Dr. James Lindsay and Peter Boghossian, I thought, man, if this type of, let's say, teaching, or this type of, I guess I call them theology, because in some way they because I think I have friends that learn post-colonial theology, or this critical race theology or something like that. Everything they see or read like Bible in a very certain way. It has to do with some sort of racism or justice and that kind of stuff, rather than read Bible what I guess Hebrew says or what Greek says and that kind of deal. So I mean, I have friends. I kind of call them I kind of call my other friends. It's like, man, we have, I think, our friends become a woke pastor. That particular means that they have an agenda to preach just so-called social justice and then about what racism is really and stuff like that. Because I participated in one of those earlier this week. My friends said, oh yeah, come to Bible study. Sure. So imagine this. The woke pastor guy is a white guy. So two white pastors in their 20s and 30s,
Mm.
gonna teach about social justice and racism to me, another, I guess, race, you know, call that, I don't care. And then the other audience was the black man in his 50s and 60s. Let that sink in. Yeah, there's something odd thing going on there. And then there's some pastors I've been paying attention in here in South Florida. When the whole what was that thing, the recent events, the protests going on. Most of the big churches in South Florida, they made a statement about, now we're about the social justice. We're gonna talk about the racism that's in our churches and so on and so forth. So they use very specific language. And one of the guy I know, their argumentation is that everything is like emotional based. It's like, look at this, what's going on here? It's so bad, so bad. And then they made also some type of a commandment about, we're gonna talk about this more in the church. We're gonna talk about more injustice in our society. We're gonna talk more about the systemic racism and etc. We use these languages, but I gotta say, I don't know what systemic racism is, and of course, it means something to like this the grievance study scholars versus what we think systemic racism is, or etc. etc. And then another pastor, it was online, and he was it was at a conference, like the Zoom call / they had the stadium, they talk about this stuff. They brought this like Black Lives Matter, I think. I guess this guy is supposedly representative of this activism people, and talking about also another the issue of social justice and that kind of stuff. I mean, you want to talk about those things, I said, no problem, go for it. The only, let's say, problem or beef I have will be, okay, you hear one side of the story, one particular side of the story of what's going on. At the same time, there are, in America, we have about 300 million or 350 million people living in the United States alone. That's a lot of people. And many people have different views. Like I think you mentioned to Paul Vanderklay about the Glenn Larry and what's his name, the John McCord. They have a very different view when it comes to this type of issues as well. You don't hear that on the mainstream media or anywhere else. Like one thing for me was quite shocking was about this Kanye West. When you look at him, at least, okay, you and I in agreement, that man is a black man. But strange enough, there's this guy named Ta-Nehisi Coates or something.
Yeah.
He for a journal, he said, no, he's not a black man. So you think, wait a minute, that what is being black? So recent interview with James Lindsay and I think Benjamin Boyce on the podcast. He said there's this person who wrote this some project for New York Times article 1619, and this person redefined there's difference between racial black and political black on a tweet, and then that Twitter deleted afterwards, quickly gone. So you have to see, whoa, so there's that distinction between black people who's politically black and racially black. There's a dividing line right there. So one can, let's say, look like that man is a black man or black woman, but no, it depends on their political stance. It depends on their political stance, whether they vote for Democrats or the Republicans. If they vote for Republicans, they call all sorts of names that, like, whoa, I'm not calling that person that kind of term. I don't want to use that. I just see them as people. the other people are using all sorts of names. And I mean, like to me, it's, I guess to you and I'll confess that I'm leaning more towards, yes, Christianity, and perhaps I'm some form of Christian. At the same time, I do have, it depends who I talk to. If I talk to atheists, maybe I'll kind of push, there's something to Christianity more than meets the eye. If I talk to just regular, very fundamental Christian, then I go for, swing for the other side, pretty much. And I think Christians in the theology or teaching, one they talk about this thing called sin, right? The sinners. Pastor Paul Bender talk about the total depravity, that, you know what, no matter what I do, I am a sinner. That's one of the confession. And that's the reason why you trust Jesus more than yourself, and you pray to Jesus that, you know, you how not to be, I don't know, bad person, so on and so forth. So Christianity had this some sort of a founding of, if you messed up, there's redemption.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sort of a complex story arc. Whereas for people who apply this, the grievance study scholar or critical, like a theory stuff, it's all about condemnation, it seems to me. There's no salvation. Their salvation is, you gotta do this type of work. You gotta do the anti-racism work, and you have to not internalize. It's like you have to see yourself as a racist person, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the white people, I think. And I'm there. The Asians are joining pretty soon, because I read on the one of the protests, it says Asian silence are violence, or something like that. So we don't talk about, Asians don't talk about the social justice, and I'm just as guilty as everyone else is there. So like, oh, okay, guilty as charged then. So many variables going on, and I see that here in churches here, unfortunately. Even though I don't attend church, if you talk to me maybe 10, 15 years ago, I said, screw church, I don't care. They could go order whatever. And I suppose my heart has changed because of the friendship that I have and personal reasons. I do want to see American church, or just church in general, don't go down to this path, because this path is not, it's, I don't see redemption there. That's the one thing that I'm very struggle or dealing with, because some pastors using these language of social justice and etc., and they said they do it in the name of love. Mm-hmm. Now I don't know how that's gonna turn out. Mm-hmm. I think you mentioned to the in our Discord server on the question about these things, and I share the same concern as well too, because like I said, I have a friend of mine who's a walk pastor. They took the Bible verse and they gotta turn into like, we gotta do something now. It's like, what is a group of church people doing right now these days? We gotta do social justice work. Mm. It's like, yes, group, that's one thing, and at the same time, you can't ignore the individuals, because it's very difficult to group all in a way. Because America, come on, like here, if you look at where I work, next door over there is a guy from Argentina. The other side is a guy from Pakistan, and almost it is from Middle East. I don't know which country, but you get the idea. In front of me, there's people from Jewish, the Israelites. And then you go the other side, there's like a Dominican Republic giving the haircuts. And you go downstairs, there's people from Mexico. Yeah, you're talking about people from all over the states and countries or whatever. This is one of the place. Yes, we have white people running around that too. So there's that. So to me, as an outsider, person who doesn't attend church, or I don't have pastors or anything, to see these things is like, I hope you guys pay attention, because there's something really, really strange and even sinister thing going on. I mentioned to some of the friends, I have friends who goes to church. most of them don't pay attention. And then now when this whole rights thing's going on, and they text me, send me messages on Facebook, it's like, what the hell is going on here? We don't know what to do. I've been sending you videos, man. Have you checked out those? You send videos? What videos? It's like, oh, okay. Click here, watch this. It's like, this is like an hour and a half. There's no other way, man. You gotta watch this thing. Like you gotta take it, swallow it. There's no other way, because this is not one of those things that in 5 minutes everything's gonna solve. It seems to be very like a solid now. It's very grounded. It has a sweep into not only church, and just look at our society now.
Mm-hmm.
One of the example will be, I see you have a posters of movies, the Marvel movies and the Star Wars and stuff. Marvel movie, yeah, I like watching it. Me and my friend, whenever new Marvel movie come out, I go watch it. Star Wars, oh dear, I usually go to sleep. as much as the Star Wars is great movie, I'm sure, I sometimes I just can't stay awake, you know. It's just like whatever. But even recent Star Wars movie, if you notice, there's a split between the people who's like, oh, best Star Wars movie ever too. No, Star Wars has lost. Star Wars has gone to haywire.
Mm.
It's like, what the hell is going on? So this thing is not just one of the things that's happening now. I think it's been going on for a very long time. It's been happening very like a little by little. I think Dr. Peterson mentioned, it's like you just move slowly, and then when something happens, you stop, and then nobody pay attention, then you go slowly move again. Just slowly moving in, you know. Because the first time I saw that movie Frozen, the Disney movie, the princess movie, I have no idea why. I just felt there's something awfully wrong about this movie that I cannot pinpoint. I cannot articulate. And thank you, Dr. Peterson, and Jonathan Pedro, I think, too. I now go, whoa, yes, there's definitely wrong about this movie. I can break it down, but I'm sure we have a limited time. I have another friend of mine. He sent me a picture. I guess he's a pastor's friend. And this pastor took one of the selfie, and he goes, oh, our new church is opening now. He took a picture of himself and the church, the building background. And my friend in the text message, he says, I don't know why I had this feeling or notion that there's something wrong with this thing. Am I crazy? And I told my friend, no, you're not crazy. Even though, yes, he can be crazy, my friend. I said, no, you're not crazy. You have good intuition, because this time I was listening to Jonathan Pedro about the arts and stuff. And what you're looking at right now is it's not a church building. It's a office building. So in a sense, there's you're looking at in terms of the aesthetics point of view. Because the church, like the Jonathan Pedro described in the medieval church as a very, you build them as very as magnificent and beautiful as possible. I mean, we still have churches, you know, in Europe and stuff. And then you look at the churches here in America, it's all either like office building, or it looks like like, have you been to rock concert, like Switchfoot concert? It looks like that. It looks like just regular, like, it doesn't look like church.
So you broke up on that part. So what place were you talking about again?
The like a rock concert. Have you been to rock concert?
Oh yes.
Like the Switchfoot concert.
Yeah.
The churches has now become the I think Pope Benedict mentions like this mega churches with the lights, smoke screens, and loud music, rock band, that kind of stuff. You know.
Yep.
That has what churches become. I had no problem because I like going to rock concerts. Yeah, and at the same time, I mentioned my friend. Hey, yeah, you are right in that there is something very strange thing going on in our culture, definitely going on in our churches, and I hope people pay attention, because this is not just one of those things gonna pass away. I think it's going to impact, many people, including our children, even though I'm not married. Our people, and I do concern for Christian people that I know, that they don't understand what's going on. As just a person who just work, and also this time I realized, man, I wish I had more group of people that we can exchange ideas and discuss and to figure things out, like how Pastor Paul and John Berbeke, even though they're in the two different sides when it comes to ideas, right? One's believing God, one doesn't believe in God. And you look at their conversation, they're figuring things out as they go. They don't point a finger and say, oh, no, you don't believe in God, you go to hell. John said, no, your stuff is nonsense and whatever, but they don't do that kind of stuff there. And I truly miss those, because what I see, you go to social media, Facebook, it's all about us versus against them. That's it, There's no, like, a discourse. It is a huge problem. I guess we have to go through. I don't see solution. Only thing I can say is the conversation that, like, you and I have, or whoever you're going to have with another person. I hope when you talk to your church leaders about saying they want to multi-ethnically, let's do this kind of stuff. It's like, well, okay, if you force something, it ain't gonna turn out very well. Because the church, the Korean church I grew up, like I said, when I went there, it was like that, with Korean kids and mixed race kids and etc. etc. And then there's a period of time where it seems like the church ministry and the pastor is like, yeah, let's bring everybody or something. And in time they did. They brought some kids from the college and multiple different races. The church kind of broke up, even though the church still exists. But the church now has gone down to maybe 20, 30 people, congregation. The time that I went to the church, it was roughly about 150 people, maybe 200, including all the kids. So small, regular-sized church. And then now, well, one of the huge reasons why the church broke up is the scandal happened in the church. Basically, the head pastor and the English, his son, kind of, let's just say, had an affair, and they moved back to Korea, even though they're Americans, going back and forth. But that's like a whole other issue, so I gotta put that aside there. So there was a period of time they tried that. It just didn't work out that well. And this I heard from one of the former member that went to church I got in touch with. And because I have a friend in that time who's from Puerto Rico. And the head pastor say very bad things about him. Let's just say, at least you and I agree in this turn, very racist things about this, my friend, which was very shocking. And this is coming from Korean pastor. Okay, I'll give you another shocking thing. But this same pastor come to me one day, to me and my dad, that first of all, in order for me to be Christian, first of all, I had to be Korean first. Then I can act as a Christian. Yeah. Oh, really? Even my dad, after the conversation, even my dad told me, turn around, he goes, don't listen to that pastor. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So like, okay, so at least me and my dad, we agree there. This is total nonsense. So you wanna, let's say, talk about who's racist, not racist. You know what? Everyone's guilty. At the end of the day, like the Christians use the word sinner, right? We are sinner. That's why I guess we need Jesus and to save you and help you out of this stuff so that we can do. I don't want to use the word better. That we can, I guess, move forward instead of just sitting down and be a victim. So in an essence, that's I think to me a Christian teaching is very valuable, and what I see from like these other churches that talking about social justice, it's like be careful what you're adopting, because I don't know if this is really gonna help people. They all say they're gonna do this in the name of love, and I'll tell you this, because during I was watching this this pastor talking about the social justice and stuff. So on YouTube there's like a section about the people comments, right? I forget what they call the live chat. So this guy was asking a question about this church and what's this about and so on and so forth. And instead of the moderator and people answering him back, like, oh, this church is about this or that and stuff, they retract his message, basically deleted his message. People just asking questions about what's Christianity, or maybe I have a different opinions. Instead of engaging in a dialect, they delete. No, we don't talk to you. Even that same pastor was flat out talking and said, this is space, this is safe space. And at the same time, if you're gonna talk negative things in this safe space, you will be booted out. This is words from this pastor that I know. And wow, that's what's happening in the church right now. I thought church is more about, you know what? I mean, just come in, we'll figure this thing out. Left that, it seems like just forget that, You either join us or adios, Oh, goodbye means Spanish, adios. Sorry. Yeah, I think I talk too much, right?
No, it's great. It's great. You've got more interesting things to say than I do, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I guess I suppose I left the message because I saw you dealing with the similar thing, and man, I don't have answers for you, unfortunately, and hopefully we can talk more. And I guess I'm adapting what Dr. Peters said in one of the interview. I'm like, what am I? I don't know the purpose or reason or whatever. And he said very small, this line says, you know what, if anything, if I die, or one thing that I want to be remembered is that I help people. I strengthen the individuals. And I thought, you know what, that is a quite very admirable thing to do. I hope. In some sense, that's the reason why he wrote the books, or he has his lectures on YouTube so that people can see it for free. Thank goodness. So I hope I can do that to people as well. I like, for me, I'm in more of a one-to-one conversation or two-to-one conversation with my friends, because I notice in the Facebook or Twitter, I'm like, I'm not engaging that, because it's all about pew fighting over there. So no, thank you.
Did you see the last conversation between Paul Vanderklay? Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. I just had a question. You reminded me of something there. Did you see Paul's last conversation with Brett Sockold, the Roman Catholic guy in Canada? Yeah, they talked a little bit about that, about how you might be having a conversation with one person, but if you're doing it on Facebook, then someone,
it ain't gonna go well.
That they're gonna dive bomb the conversation, and what did Brett say? They drop a turd in the punch bowl.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what happened to a friend of mine. Like she mentioned something about on the Facebook, and next thing you know, somebody they went war about the whole issues about the Protestant rights. It's like, oh man, I told you not to engage in that thing. It's not gonna go well. It's like, like, oh jeez. I hope now she kind of learned this. It's like, you know what, I'm just gonna pull it back. I'm just gonna focus on myself, on my family. So she even kind of like deactivated her Facebook. Like, good for you. That's better for you. You gotta take care of your health and that kind of stuff. So I'm like, yeah, you know what, just be with your husband, hang out with your friend, hang out with her, children and so on and so forth. It's better for you right now
Mm.
because it's rough out there.
It's crazy. I was talking to my wife last week, and you know, I was just telling her some of the stuff that I was wrestling with, certain things that I was seeing posted on Facebook, and I can't remember exactly what she said, but I think she had asked me if it was just, you know, if I just needed to get off of Facebook, and you know, she may very well be right. It might be a good idea to get off of Facebook for a little while, or whatever social media, you know, I'm seeing certain things on. But there was a part of me that thought that that was not the best thing to do, because some of these things were like poking me and aggravating me, but I felt like they were aggravating me in a way where there was something I knew internally that I needed to wrestle with. I needed to figure out, what is it that's bothering me so much about some of the particular things that I'm seeing, you know? I found that it's easy for me to jump straight to, well, there's something wrong with that person, or they've got issues that are going on, and that's why I don't like them. But you know, I've learned over the years that I am the one that's responsible for the way that I'm feeling and the way that the things that are going on inside of me, and those are the things that I can address and need to address, kind of in the Jordan Peterson way. You know, it's my room that's being disturbed by this. So some of it could be, okay, well, I need to take the action of not interacting with those things for a little while. That may be something, a tool that I need to use. Another tool, though, is to kind of look inside and say, what is it that's so disturbing to me about these things? What is it inside of me that maybe, you know, is there, to steal some of the Jungian stuff that I know nothing about other than just tangentially hearing Peterson talk about it, that I need to integrate? You know, are there shadowy parts of me that I'm seeing in some of these things that I don't like? And this can vary. If you start looking at this with a critical race theory lens, you can easily just start saying, oh, well, yes, there's privilege that you need to recognize and that you need to confess. And, you know, you can go all the way down that path. And I get that. I don't get the sense that that's what I'm dealing with here. You know, you could go down the path of integrating the shadow. And to me, there's more of maybe a completeness to that, or a wholeness to that, to say this actually is a part of me. How do I reckon with it? And then how do I, again, I'll just use the same language. How do I integrate that to say, yes, this is a part of who I am, whatever that thing is that I'm wrestling with, that it disturbed in me. How do I learn more about that? How do I explore that part of the shadow in me, again, to use Jungian terms that I know nothing about? And how do I harness it to do more good than harm in the world, to do good instead of harm, to strengthen the individual, to strengthen this individual, to help strengthen other individuals? You know, there are some deep and dark things that have happened to me in my life, that I could look at and just say, it's just terrible. It is debilitating. It's a horrible thing. And all of those things could be true. But I've learned over the years that there are things horrible that have happened to me, or also that I have engaged in, that were inside of me, that came out, that were it not for those things, I would not be able to connect with other individuals and find points of contact, and be able to, and for us to be able to help one another to do that strengthening, to improve reality itself in our own little way that we can. I don't know if any of that's making any sense, but it just, what this has started to do to me is just to kind of force me to challenge myself in times where I have the energy or even the courage for it, which are too few and not often enough. to find places that need growth, or also to look through the pile of firewood and see, or to look for the dead wood and see what needs to be burned. And that's a scary proposition. You know, the dead wood needs to be burned off, but because it's a part of you, it's something that I don't want to give away sometimes, or even think about or look at or talk about. So, you know, what I'm trying to resist is the temptation to see things on Facebook as other people's issues whenever I get irritated about them, and instead try to be more introspective about it. Try to look inside and say, okay, why am I reacting this way? Are there things in me that I can kind of challenge and even listen to other people's criticisms about, and find out, okay, do they have a point? Is there maybe something in there that needs some alteration? And again, I don't do that often enough. And probably the person that I'm least, I'm not good at doing that with is my wife. when she will show me things, and again, not even intentionally sometimes, but she'll just show me things in me that are very selfish and very, they are problems. And I don't want to face them. And least of all do I want to face them when the person that's closest to me, whose problems I can also see very clearly, if that's the person that's bringing them to me, it's why marriage is so difficult, but also so good, is because you are getting feedback from the person, or you are giving feedback to the person who knows all of your flaws and can very easily say, oh, no, wait just a second. Don't you tell me that this is the problem when you're unwilling to even face what your problems are, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think marriage is such a gift for me, if I will dare to embrace those opportunities to actually pause and listen, as hard as it is to hear some of the things that are said to me, to be able to, if I am at least maybe to, like if you were to think of like a number grade in school, you know, like 100% is a really good grade, or a 70% is like kind of passing, and you know, you start getting lower and lower than that, 60%, 50%, and you're getting into F grade territory, right? Letter grade. It's just like, even if I can get a 10% sometimes on how I'm graded and how well I'm doing in marriage, I'm at least learning something and I'm achieving something that could be then taken out into the world, into some of these other conversations. And when I go and I get into one of these 10% conversations that Paul Vanderklay is talking about, where it is a discussion on race, or it is a discussion on social justice, or it is a discussion on historical oppression that Black people, particularly in the United States, you know, have faced with slavery, and then the abolishment of slavery, incorporation of things like Jim Crow laws, and those things getting taken away. And, you know, disagreeing on, you know, you get these factions that disagree on whatever the topic is, that disagree on what the empirical data is, on what the facts are. That's, to me, what marriage is too, is there's a lot of disagreement about what the facts are, because you are viewing the exact same situations from sometimes completely different perspectives. You start to learn, and you have very different interpretations of the events. And Luke Thompson, who, you know, has been on the Randos United channel a lot and has talked to Paul a couple of times, I don't know if this is his quote or if he got it from someplace else, but he says, you know, evidence is in the eye of the beholder. And so events can happen, and empirical evidence can be brought forth in a particular conversation, but depending on the experiences, the temperament, the even the I don't want to be triggering with this term, but the cultural background, the ways that you were brought up, the different experiences that you have with different people. You can look at the exact same events and see very, very different things about those. And it doesn't mean that there's no reality. To me, it just means that there is a lot more to reality than we think. And people are the key, because everybody has kind of a different lens individually that they come to reality with. Now, there are certain, I can misinterpret reality as well. I can misinterpret events. You know, I can see something happen. I can see something happen, and I can think, I can think I'm seeing one thing, but I'm seeing something completely different. Like I grew up on 70s and 80s sitcoms. And one of the tropes that was used, I don't know if you've ever heard of the show Three's Company. It was an old sitcom from maybe the late 70s through the early 80s. Anyway, I won't get into the details of what that's about. People can Google it. You can Google it. If we end up posting this, people can Google it. But one of the tropes that happens in that particular sitcom and a lot of sitcoms is people see one thing and they think they're seeing something completely different. And that's sometimes when comedy ensues, but it's sometimes also when really big and fiery disagreements ensue too. It's when I think I hear that you're saying one thing, but you're saying something completely different. And I am not able to hear you if I'm not approaching our conversation from a place of humility and an unassuming place, and not just immediately thinking I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't have any good examples of that. I wish I did to make my point, but I hope that at least makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah. I mean, man, good stuff there. I mean, I think Dr. Peterson has that rule, right? Don't assume something about like don't assume that you know things or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't remember the quotes, but you kind of get the idea. It's like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And one thing I said, I'll say, I think, like, at least in my opinion, I think you are on the right track, Jeff. That because you are struggling, you want to figure out and you want to deal with this, what is going on inside of me and what is going on around me and what is going on with my wife, the church, and people around me, etc., etc. Because if you do meet people, there are many people who don't think that way. It's all about blaming the others. It's like, this happened to me is because of that. I heard from I think from Paul had like a talk with this musician guy where people has this picture of what happened, and then say, look at this, what happened here, and this is all they focus on, rather than behind the picture there's a whole bunch of multiple pictures that's going on, or you remember like only in this way. I think they said in a sense it goes there's difference between what happened, what you think it happened. Those are two different questions. What happened will be that's pretty much what happened. But sometimes what people do is, I woke up in the one day and then I was so hungry and then I had the bowl of cereal and milk and then I got sick really, really bad. And I realized, you know what? I realized I don't like cereal and I don't like milk because they're bad and they're evil, whatever you want to call it. Okay. But what really happened is you just had a cereal. Perhaps milk was bad. Perhaps cereal was bad. Or perhaps there's something wrong with your body that doesn't work with milk or so on and so forth. There are multiple barriers. And thank you, Jordan Peterson and Paul Vanderklee and all these people. It's like, no, man, there's a heck of a lot more thing going on here. So watch out for that. And the second thing I'll say, because like when you, let's say, struggle with your thing, let's say your demon or the work between the shadow and the persona, that type of deal, right? There will be a people who's gonna help you in a way that you could get to the next either level, or like what the Burbeck is doing. It's like there's a place I want to get to. I cannot get there on my own. Let's have a conversation so that we can get there together, and vice versa. Versus there are people out there who's gonna point your mistake. Oh, look at you, how messed up you are. It's that the eatable meat, I think. It's like the mothers that tell their sons and daughters, oh no, it's okay, you know, you don't have to do anything. I'm just I'll do everything for you. Instead of telling them, okay, you messed up, you need to go clean your room because you made a mess. I ain't gonna clean, because you gotta learn how to do that on your own, because I won't be here for who knows. So I suppose, what was that Bible verse? The sharp as a serpent and innocent as dove, I guess. So when you have conversation with people, it's like you gotta pay attention and I guess focus that if this person wants good things from you, or if this person just wanna exploit you. I mean, I have some example, a friend of mine where whole of her friends wanna take advantage of her because she's in a good nature. She's the one person who just wanna kind of like help people out and that kind of stuff. That's a good thing to have. And at the same time, some people are looking at that and, ooh, I know she's gonna help me out because, you know, that's in her nature. And there are people out there just deviously exploit that idea, you know, or exploit that person's, other person's good nature. Then of course, an other person goes, oh, crying and that kind of stuff I've been dealing with. And so I suppose that's one thing, hopefully people can, and I do my best to, I guess, work on that as well for me. And then hopefully to you as well, because I know the situation with the church thing and the internal thing that you're dealing with. I hope that you see people, like, for example, like your wife is telling you, like, come on, Jeff, like get your act together. I don't know if she listened to Jordan Peterson or not. You know, it's just like, come on, Peter, just get it together. Whereas, you know, there are some people, just wives and husbands, kind of like, man, I seen, even though I'm not married, I seen some good couple, thank God, good ones out there, and I do well. Some couples, I have no idea how they're together. They're so miserable. They look so miserable. And of course, some of them, they got married. Next thing you know, I heard they're divorced because of, oh, she did this and that, and the guy's saying, no, you know, he's crazy and she's crazy, and next thing you know, they're just gone. You know, there's no reconciliation. So yeah, I hope just continue go down that path. You know, this path is a strange. The road that we're in is so strange, and in some way, I feel very alone too, because I like to watch like 2-hour videos of Paul Benedict and Jordan Peterson, whereas my friends and people I know is like, nah, man, I don't watch these things. It's like, oh, you know, it's like, is there anybody out there talk? And I guess now this COVID-19, and I kind of, I guess, come out of my shell a little bit more. I'm like, you know what? Let's, I guess, even though this is an internet online thing, let me just maybe talk a little more. Or if I don't have anything to say, of course, I'll just shut up and just say, thank you very much, Paul, for your video. That's the only thing I can say. And yeah, you know, and I hope that just continue moving forward in that way, hopefully, you know.
Yeah.
And the cat.
Well, I didn't I don't know if there's anything else that you want to talk about. I could probably go for about 5 more minutes or so, or we could end it here.
I suppose let's end it there. I think I read out just as well. Perhaps we could talk about stuff, but right now, I mean, I see people walking around at the swap shop now. So yeah, I think I probably have to pay attention to some of the customers here.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah. So I guess next time, just so you know, yes, I could do early morning like this if you want to have another conversation.
Okay.
Or 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's
Okay.
where things die down here.
Okay.
If you ever you want to do a later conversation, just letting you know.
Yeah, this has been great, Dae. I appreciate you reaching out, and let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, definitely. And I maybe I send you some maybe videos. I know they're long, but I hope you watch them and hopefully get some information out of it.
I'll watch them. Yeah. All right. Well, take care. Good luck with business today.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful care and your family and everybody else.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Oh,
You have a good one.
you.
All right.
All righty.
Bye.